Okay, I think we are live. This is Monday, September 28th. We are at a T minus 2 day countdown to the end of the third quarter. This is the Anderson Report. I am Tim the Source Anderson. I want to thank everyone for joining the broadcast this evening. This is my YouTube channel titled The Anderson Report. I also broadcast on Periscope on TJ Anderson 12. And my Twitter handle is TJ Anderson 1. So the week has started off in much better fashion than it did last week. A very strong rally today with a little bit of selling at the end of the day. That's to be expected when we're, trying to fight a near-term correction or downtrend where the S&P has declined 4 consecutive weeks. I had a pretty good feeling that this would probably be an up week. We're only 1 day into it. A lot can still happen. There's a lot that we've got the end of the quarter on Wednesday. We've got an employment report on Friday, the September jobs report. We've got a lot of other economic data Tuesday through Friday. And of course, we have the first presidential debates tomorrow night. So if you are a first time viewer on YouTube, I'd certainly like to encourage you to hit the subscribe button, the red subscriber bar, and then hit that little bell next to it. You will get notifications of when the next broadcast will be. I might also say that we had a little bit of a delay in scheduling the broadcast today. I thought that it had been entered into the system at a little after 4 o'clock. It didn't go in until 6:40. If some people are missing this live, you'll be able to watch it on replay on YouTube or maybe even on Periscope if that's your preference. So we are going to get into the market action today. Again, a pretty strong up day. The Dow Jones up 1.5%. S&P 500 just a touch more than that, 1.6%. NASDAQ a little bit less than 2%. And since it had been the worst performing average last week, the Russell 2000 was the best performing average today, up 2.4%. So the Dow gained a little over 400 points. It was up as much as 530, 540 points at its highs of the day. It's certainly normal that when we've been in a downtrend and then we get a very sharp rally like we had today. And in fact, today's advanced decline stats were the best advanced decline stats on any day so far in the month of September. That's encouraging. Tells us that things were maybe a little bit near term oversold realistically after the big down day last Wednesday. So the S&P gained over 50 points. So the Dow closed at 27,584. That is a little bit above its 50-day moving average. I really thought it would take the Dow a lot more work to get back above that 50-day moving average. It's only 40 points above it. It could easily drop below it tomorrow. Clearly, we'd like to see it hold. The S&P 500 closed just below its 50-day moving average. The S&P went out at 33.51, and the 50-day moving average is 33.53.50. So the S&P just 2 points below that 50-day moving average. Yes, it was a little bit above it at between 2 and 230, but a little bit of selling at the end of the day. That's okay. So just have to check one thing. If you can bear with me for a minute. Okay. So, okay. All right. So, the NASDAQ also closed above its 50-day moving average. The NASDAQ gained 200 points. A lot of ones on the screen here. 11,117 spot 53, if you want to get exact. A gain of 1.9%. The 50-day moving average for the NASDAQ is about 80 points lower than that. Look, we'll see if the NASDAQ can hold that 50-day moving average. It is it's positive that the NASDAQ and the Dow both closed above their 50-day moving average, although just by fractional amounts, and the S&P is just fractionally below. It's a little bit, maybe it's even a little bit unusual to have the Dow and the Nasdaq both above and the S&P below. The S&P usually tracks the Nasdaq a little closer than the Dow does, but we've had a lot of volatile moves during the month, a lot of back and forth. Rick, it's great to have you in the chat, and Mark Johnson, same to Mark. Thank both of you for joining us this evening. So I mentioned the Russell 2000 up 2.5%. The Russell is doing a pretty good job of making up for some drastic underperformance earlier in the month. In fact, we're going to talk about where we stand on the month right now. And given how many really ugly down days we've had this month, we had the day after the highs on September 2nd when the Dow was down 1,000 points until the last hour of the day. We had a down 3% day last Wednesday for a couple of the averages. We've just had some days when then you would think that the month, there's 2 days to go, would have a lot that the stats would be a lot heavier to the downside than they are. But we'll take a look at exactly where we stand now on the month. So the Dow Jones with today's gain is down 3.1% in September. Quarter to date, it's plus 6.8%. That's a very strong quarter. The S&P 500 with today's gain of 1.6%, the S&P 500 is down 4.2% for the month of September with 2 days to go. That's obviously a down month, but given the fact how strong July and August were, the S&P is still up 8% quarter to date with 2 days to go. Now, the NASDAQ is going to have even larger numbers on both sides. It's got a larger decline for the month of September. It's down 5.6% month to date, and it is up 10.5% quarter to date with 2 days to go in the quarter. Now, clearly the quarter started, the quarter started June 1st, and we had a pretty sharp rally. The quarter started July 1st. We had a pretty sharp rally in April, in May and June off the March lows. So, these gains are still, by any measure, strong quarterly numbers with 2 days to go. The Russell 2000, with its 2.5% gain today, is only down 3.3% for the month of September. It was looking a lot worse the middle of last week. So the Russell also has a nice gain for the quarter of plus 4.8%. The Russell went out at 1510. If you want to include the Russell as one of the four major market averages, although sometimes we only talk about three, the Dow, the S&P, and the NASDAQ, the Russell is the smaller cap index, obviously, and it is the small cap benchmark. And if you were to the best comparable for the Russell would be the S&P 600. That's the S&P small cap index of 600 stocks. The S&P mid cap index of 400 stocks is stocks that are probably a higher market cap, that they would be not in the Russell 2000, because for the whole Russell universe of 3,000 stocks, the Russell 2000 is stocks number 1001 through 3000 on a market cap basis. Now, the Russell closed at 1510, spot 34. The 50-day moving average is at 1530. That's just less than 20 points away. The Russell gained 35 points today. The S&P is just a couple points below its 50-day. The NASDAQ above. The Dow just above. So we'll have to see if maybe the Russell can make a move at that 50-day moving average, and above that major resistance at the 1600 level. That's where it stalled out in early September, and that's what it struggled with toward the end of August. Maybe it was a little bit, if you look at the chart of the Russell, and eventually I'm going to get to the point where I can put charts right up on the screen. It'll be great. But you'll see that the Russell was faltering a little bit the last week and a half of August, almost a little bit of a precursor that the market was getting a little tired. So Rick has a good question here. Does today's activity end up with end of the quarter window dressing in a classic way? Well, see, that's always a great question for debate. And I think you had a couple different dynamics today. You had some positive news on potential vaccines. You did not have big headlines over the weekend about major increase in cases in parts of the world. A week ago, when we came in Monday, there had been headlines over the weekend about a major increase in cases in the UK, probably stemming from activity in the pubs. Whereas in Southern Europe, where the weather is much warmer and people aren't necessarily just huddling indoor in closed off drinking establishments, maybe they were going to outdoor drinking establishments, but not really an outbreak of cases at all in the southern part of the continent, where the weather is much nicer. But that outbreak in the UK is really what set the market off on a very negative tone the beginning of last week, on fears that we would be experiencing that within a couple of weeks. And we have had an increase in some cases, but very, very low percentage of hospitalizations. Most of those cases are probably in the college campus areas, there's no doubt that 18 to 24-year-old age group is much less susceptible to having very serious health issues from COVID, unless they already have certain health issues that COVID would just act to really inflame. So we didn't have any of that coming in today after the weekend. We had some little bit of positive news on the vaccine. And also, I think we had this positive story that Florida is taking off all their percentage capacity restrictions on indoor dining and indoor activities. They're going straight to 100%. And people feel that if other states follow suit, that is exactly what the economy needs to get to that next level. You'll notice that over the last 3 weeks, although maybe the last 4 weeks, where the first time weekly jobless claims, and of course we'll get that number on Thursday again, has dropped below a million. Maybe it's been below a million for a few weeks, but it's struggling to get lower than that 850 level. That's been a very stubborn level to break on the downside. And I think that that's just a sign of how many millions of people across the country are employed in food service establishments, bars, restaurants, other indoor activities, um, where if you're at a 25 or even a 50% capacity, a lot of those businesses just aren't going to be viable. So that's kind of a long roundabout answer to Rick's question. In fact, it's not even a very good answer. But I think the reality is we were set up for a rally. We closed with a positive tone at the end of last week. And even if we weren't 3 days from the end of the quarter, we probably would have had a rally today. Now, will it follow through tomorrow? That's that's going to be a very interesting scenario. And if it follows through tomorrow, it'll be interesting to see what sectors show relative strength. We pretty much had strength all across the board today. But if we get a follow through tomorrow, it'll be interesting to see what sectors have relative strength. And certainly, there is always this potential for um, increased, uh, always this potential for some portfolio dressing at the end of the quarter. And Eleanor is making a great point here. Thank you, Eleanor. There was probably some positive chatter on maybe some early signs of movement toward a stimulus 4.0 plan. At least the Democrats said they were going to put up a bill, I think somewhere in the neighborhood of 2.2 or 2.3 trillion. Still, about 800 billion higher than what the Republicans have said they're comfortable with at 1.5. But at least they're talking, and at least they're proposing something rather than just saying they're not going to propose anything. So, Eleanor makes a great point. Maybe maybe a little bit of a positive movement on the stimulus front also. Um, so look, we talked about a lot of performance. The outlier in the performance game for September and for the quarter is clearly the Dow Jones Transportation Average. I mean, after it gained 9% in July and 12% in August, the Dow Jones Transports today gained 170 points, 1.5%. They went out at 11,551. I think a week and a half ago they hit 11,5, just above 11,550. I think the all-time high is 11,575 or something close to that, a little over 2 years ago. And so they're up 2.3% on the month. The transports gained 9% in July. They gained 12% in August. They're up 2.3% in September with 2 days to go. And for the quarter, I hope you're all sitting down. The transports are up 24.7% in the third quarter. That's the rails, it's the delivery companies, FedEx, UPS. I think both of them hit all new highs multiple times this month. The airlines pulled back a little bit about a week and a half ago. I still think that they can do a little bit better. In fact, the TSA numbers continue to improve. The volume of people going through TSA checkpoints at airports. And you know what? I took a look at the numbers for Monday. They were up a little bit from last Monday. I neglected to write them down. That's my bad. But I will tomorrow. We'll talk about. Actually, I couldn't have looked at them for Monday because we only got Friday, Saturday, Sunday numbers today. So from Friday's numbers, TSA checkpoints are up maybe 3 to 4% from the previous Friday, up quite a bit from the Friday before. Saturday's numbers 660,000 up from 640. Sunday's numbers 875,000. That's the heaviest day of the week usually. Up from 84 up about 30,000 from the week before, which was up about 35,000 from the prior week. So those numbers are grinding higher. There's still some work to do, but I do think that as more people travel and more people take flights, they will come away with the experience that, you know what, these planes are really clean and they're doing everything they can, from giving you wipes when you walk on, uh, not handing out a lot of stuff when you're on the flight, middle seats. Most of the airlines have middle seats open, and it just seems to me that the airlines are doing. I flew a week ago Saturday. Um, was it a week ago Saturday? I think it was a week ago Saturday. Yeah, and they're just doing everything they can to give people a comfort level that um, you know you're going to be as safe on an airplane as you would be in any other environment, where you're around other people. You don't have to talk face to face to people. You don't have to walk up, and rub shoulders with people. They're boarding slowly, row by row. They're deplaning, telling everybody please to stay in your seat until they deplane 3 or 4 rows, and then have other people get up just so that people don't get the feeling that people are breathing all over them. Um, I thought they were doing a pretty good job. And I thought that O'Hare, where the airport I flew through, I mentioned this last night, sorry for repeating myself, was much busier a week ago Sunday than it was 2 weeks before that. So maybe a positive sign for the airlines. Um, we'll just have to see. So look, pretty much an across the board rally today. A lot of sectors had strong numbers. Energy up 2.3%. Energy just got crushed last week, down 8%. Financials up 2.3%. Financials have struggled. Consumer discretionary up 2.2%. Industrials, materials up 1.8 and 1.6%. And information technology up 1.8%. That's your high flyers in NASDAQ. Um, so, that's I think the most interesting thing and the thing to watch the closest tomorrow is, look, if we have an up day, if we have a flat day, if we have a back and forth day where we kind of trade between gains and losses a little bit, it'll be interesting to see where the relative strength is in the market. Maybe is a little bit of a hint for how investors, and to Rick's point, not only want to maybe dress their portfolios for the end of the quarter, but also how they want to be positioned going into Q4. Because after Wednesday, investors are going to have their performance numbers in for the third quarter. They're going to have their performance numbers in for the first 3 quarters of the year. And then you're going to have this, speculation from time to time about when is a virus coming. There's 5 different companies, pharmaceutical companies, or consortium of pharmaceutical groups with vaccines in stage 3 tests. And a lot of those vaccine manufacturers have had the risk taken out of the equation by the government backing the bill, backing them on pre manufacturing those vaccines should they pass their stage 3 trials. And the first two stage 1 and stage 2 is basically for safety, to see if people have adverse reactions to the vaccines. If they have people probably with different pre-existing conditions take them, to see if any people have reactions that would say, well, okay, maybe this vaccine might work for some people, but with certain pre-existing conditions, it shouldn't be used. So there may be two or three different vaccines on the market. And then I think some of the positive news late last week, and maybe it was over the weekend, was that Johnson and Johnson has this vaccine, and this is not my field of expertise by any stretch of the imagination, but Johnson and Johnson has what's going to be this allegedly this one shot vaccine. I don't know how that differs from a lot of other vaccines, but it may not have to be transported at some very minus temperature uh, transport device, which is what makes distributing of the vaccines a little very challenging from a logistics standpoint. Um, and again, this is not my field of expertise. I'm just kind of re- recapping a lot of what I read and listened to over the weekend and late last week. So I mentioned the market breadth, the advanced declines on the New York Stock Exchange were a little bit better than 5-1 positive. Okay, that those are very strong numbers. On Friday, even though we had a nice advance on Friday, the advanced declines were a little bit less than 3-1 positive. So really, we had over 2,500 advancing issues at the NYSE. We had about a little over 450 decliners. Okay, that's better than 5-1. Those are strong numbers, and that's reinforces the Russell, which is going to include a lot of tertiary stocks, outperforming the other major averages. The Nasdaq Composite, you had a little over 2,600 advancers. You had about 800 decliners. That's about 3.5-1 positive. So that's still a good number. Not quite as strong as at the NYSE, but still definitely a good number for the Nasdaq in terms of market breadth. Look, today was one day. It was the third day before the end of the quarter. It would be a classic day for some window dressing activity, which Rick pointed out. It was probably also how the setup probably also helped that the markets had been beaten on hard last week, and it was X any bad news over the weekend, which we didn't get. The setup was ripe for a rally, which we did get. We held most of that rally throughout the end of the day, although there was a little bit of selling during the last hour, nothing severe. Think the debate will affect the market tomorrow ahead of it. From Illinois. Yes. Well, it has the potential to. Um, I think that I think that people will be very interested to see any back and forth interaction that there might be between Trump and Biden. And I think people will be very interested to see how Biden handles um, uh, follow on and comeback questions from the moderator, Chris Wallace. Um, and I think that people will look to see what will be watching very closely what Trump's temperament is, especially when he's challenged on issues by Chris Wallace or on any comments that Biden might make about him. So there'll be a number of dynamics in place there. The debate is at 9:00. And Eleanor, I'm glad you asked that question because I've been debating about when to do the show tomorrow night. I know that a lot of people want to watch all the pregame activities. I'm sure that could start as early as 4 or 5 in the afternoon. But I'm really leaning toward doing the show at either 5:00 or 5:30. I don't think that will interfere with a lot of the pregame activity that people want to watch. I think at 7 o'clock, you might have some pregame activity that some people might want to watch. Um, so I think I'm going to do it maybe at 5 o'clock, maybe at 5:30. It's 7:30 right now, and I pretty much covered everything I want to. We will have some economic data tomorrow. Bear with me just a second here. I mean, we're going to have consumer confidence from the conference board. We're going to have Case Shiller home prices. Not a tremendous amount. I can do a little bit of a prelim on the ADP employment report, which we'll get Wednesday morning, and we'll get the third and final GDP for the second quarter. Oh, I was going to look at that, and you know what? I will make a point of looking at what the Atlanta Fed has to say. Their most current estimate, the most current one I saw for the third quarter, which will be coming out the last week of October, was plus 31.7%. They may have updated it since then. I'm going to make a point of going over the Atlanta Fed GDP forecast tomorrow. So I really appreciate everybody watching the show. I love the comments in the chat. Anybody that has any other comments, you can come at me on Twitter. I had a few uh, very good comments today. I won't be in front of my computer all day long tomorrow. I've got a number of things to do. I'll probably be around a little bit before the opening, around the opening, and then maybe from 2 o'clock to 4 o'clock. And then I'll try to do the show at like maybe 5:30. So this is the Anderson Report. It's my YouTube channel. If anyone is a first-time watcher, please hit the subscribe button, hit that little bell next to it, hit the like for the show. All that adds up. You can also watch it on Periscope on TJ Anderson 12. And you can, my Twitter handle is TJ Anderson 1 if you want to shoot me any comments and or questions. There's 2 days to go in the third quarter. A lot of economic data. The remainder of the week, the debates tomorrow night. Everyone, have a nice evening. Thank you very much for watching the show and joining the chat. And we will speak with you again tomorrow night.